Hey, I'm Jusko from ProudMoney.com. Is it worth it to buy your credit scores from myFICO? Well, I did it, and I am going to tell you exactly how that all played out and help you decide whether it is worth it for you. But before I do that, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you have not already, and if you have already, I thank you for doing so. So if you want to know if myFICO is worth it worth it to spend that money to get your credit scores from myFICO and get the, real deal in terms of where you are and how you stack up, I went ahead and bought my credit scores from myFICO so you could see exactly what you are getting and you can make that decision for yourself. Now, if you are going to buy your credit scores from myFICO, you should know that there usually is some sort of discount available out there, sometimes from myFICO. If you go through Google, you might see one of their ads, which is what I did in order to get 20% off. Sometimes you can find them on coupon sites, coupon codes, and that sort of thing. Also, to get your scores for a little less than the price would be if you just went straight to the site. So for me, what I ended up doing was getting this 20% off. And I got my scores and reports from all three of the credit bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. And between the three of them, I paid a little under $48. Now, in order to get your scores, you're going to have a login to myFICO, and you're also going to have to pass their little test to make sure that you are who you say you are. So they do make you go through some questions about your history in order to verify your identity. The ones for me consisted of what credit card I had gotten about 6 or 9 months ago. There are a couple questions about my auto loans, who actually held the auto loan, how much my monthly payment was, and then there's also a question on, which of these was a prior address that I had, and I had to confirm that. So you have to go through these questions in order to actually get to the next place. And that next place is this attractive dashboard. So if, like me, you were to buy all three of your credit scores from each of the credit reporting agencies, you would then see the scores that each one of them has for you right now. Now you can look at mine and you can see that TransUnion and Equifax like me a little better than Experian does, and we will talk about that in a moment. But you get all three of them if you have purchased all three of them, and obviously you can make a quick comparison as to how each one of them sees you. Now, what you are seeing on each one of these is the FICO 8 score. So there are multiple FICO scores out there. There are multiple sort of general scores, and then there are scores for mortgage, there are scores for auto loans, there are scores for bank cards, or also known as credit cards in the wider world. So you are seeing at the beginning your FICO 8 score, which is sort of the general score that you normally think of when you are talking about your credit score. And in fact, right under those big scores, you'll see, or maybe you can't see, so I will tell you, there is a link there that says to view additional FICO scores for mortgage, auto loans, and bank cards. So when you click through that link, you will then be taken to another page that again will show you your FICO 8 score, but then you can also scroll down and see your scores for all of these other varieties as well, and you can see them from each credit reporting agency. So you can kind of toggle back and forth between them, not only to see how you stack up with your different scores in those places, but then also how they compare to each other across the different credit reporting agencies. So for the credit score being used for mortgages, we're actually looking at a FICO score, a earlier FICO score, an older FICO score. FICO score 4 is what is showing up for the most part on these agencies. FICO score 8, again, is what we are looking at. It's sort of the general credit score. So each one of these is using a little bit different standard. For the auto loans, you then are looking also at a couple different FICO versions that are potentially being used by lenders. What I do like about what myFICO is showing is the fact that they are showing you, multiple scores that potential lenders could be using. So it feels to me like they are trying to be real in terms of, not only what your sort of general score is, but what your scores might be in terms of how a lender is actually going to see you in today's market. I find the bank card scores especially interesting because of the fact that the bank card scale is different from the regular FICO scale. It goes from 250 up to 900. And if you look here, you'll see that there is a FICO score 8 that is potentially used, but there may be other versions as well. So we often think about, when we're talking about our credit cards, what is your FICO score? But really that bank card score is what is being used by the lenders. So in a way, when you're just looking at your general FICO score, you're not necessarily seeing how it compares to what the bank card score actually is, because of the fact that there's a different scale for the bank card score. And then if we scroll down to the bottom of this page that is showing these multiple FICO scores, we'll actually see the FICO score 9, both the general FICO score as well as the auto score and the bank card score. Those scores are actually higher than the scores above using the new FICO 9 formulas, but it's interesting that they push them all the way to the bottom because those scores have not been adopted as widely, and so they are actually showing you the scores that are more likely to be used when you are actually going after a loan or going after a credit card or whatever. Now, I'm making this video in November of 2019, so those FICO score 9s that are down there kind of pushed to the bottom, those are not widely adopted. If you are watching this video, far into the future, far after November of 2019, perhaps the FICO 9 scores have been more widely adopted and maybe you're going to see a little bit of a different layout. Now, when I showed my scores earlier, I said that Equifax was showing me at the highest credit score right now, and then TransUnion, and then Experian. So it's actually interesting. You can go into each of the individual credit reporting agencies and get a more detailed look at not only the credit scores they have for you, but all the accounts they have, and also the credit inquiries. So one of the questions that often comes up is, why do I have different credit scores from different credit reporting agencies? And one of the big answers is because not every credit card or not every loan that you get is necessarily going to inquire with all 3 of the credit reporting agencies. So, for example, when I look at mine, Equifax only has 1 inquiry for me in the last 12 months. On the other hand, TransUnion shows 3 inquiries for me, and Experian shows 4 inquiries for me. Now, the interesting thing is, if you take all of the things that I have done overall, there actually would be 5 inquiries, but not all of them have been, shown on each one of the credit reporting agencies' records. So there is 1 credit card that only used TransUnion. There are 2 credit cards that only inquired with Experian, and then obviously only 1 of them inquired with Equifax. So every time you're getting a new credit card, it may be that they're going to pull from all 3 credit reporting agencies, but it may be that they're only using 1 or 2 of them. So as far as I'm concerned, that's pretty much what you're paying for when you are buying your credit scores through myFICO, the opportunity to see credit scores from the multiple agencies if you buy all 3 of them at the same time. Even more so to see the multiple credit scores for mortgages and auto loans and bank cards along with your more generalized FICO score. All of that is pretty nice information, and then the ability to go a little more in depth on your credit report with each one. Having all of that in one place is pretty nice, and I don't think the price is terrible for that. Now, there are some other things here within the dashboard that I don't think are really worth all that much extra. One of them is a simulator that could be helpful, especially I think if you are looking at getting a mortgage sometime in the near future. Basically what the simulator does is it allows you to sort of simulate what your credit score might be if you did certain things over a certain period of time. So if you paid off certain debts, or if you just let your accounts age over a certain period of time or whatever. For example, let's say you were thinking you were going to buy a house in the next couple of years and you saw what your credit score was today and you said, well, what if I don't do anything for the next year or whatever, and I just let my accounts age? How would my credit score go up? What would I have as a credit score a year from now? So that is helpful information to have. Otherwise, I don't see this simulator as really all that big of a deal. And then finally, there's a FICO score timeline, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense for this product because you're really only getting a snapshot of your score at one point in time. But if you bought one of their subscription products, you could track your FICO score over time. Now, these are pretty expensive products, and we'll talk about that in a second. But if you were to pay the extra money that it would take to have a subscription and track them over time, that's where you would see it. So then back to the original question, is myFICO worth it? Well, it depends on what you're using it for. I think it is worth it for the most part for a one-time use to see where you are with your credit score, especially if you may be going after a mortgage in the near future, or maybe you are rebuilding your credit score. I think it's nice to see not only what your general FICO score is, but what all those other scores are as well, to even get an idea of the fact that there are some differences in terms of what lenders are using. However, once you sort of have that base, I don't see a reason for you to be using this over time with a subscription or something of that nature. There are a lot of places where you can get free credit scores on the internet through credit cards and through other sites as well. Really what you're trying to do is see what the trend is in your score. So once you kind of have these base scores, using those free options are just as good as I'm concerned, because you want to see if you're getting better. It doesn't necessarily matter that much what your exact number is, because again, you don't always know what exact number any particular lender is going to use. So those subscriptions, you're looking at the possibility of $29.95 per month or $39.95 per month in order to be able to see all your credit scores and any changes in your credit report. That is a lot of money. So if you're spending $39.95 a month, you are pushing almost up to $500 a year in order to have access to your credit score at all times. That seems like overkill to me. Even with the less expensive product, it seems like a little bit of overkill as well. Doing something like I just did, like I just shown you in this video, even if you did it twice a year and essentially spent around $100, that would be a lot cheaper, and it would give you most of what you probably want to know, especially if you were using some of the free credit score products as sort of a complement to paying the money and seeing exactly what FICO has on you. So that is pretty much it. One-time myFICO purchase I think is worth it. A myFICO subscription, not worth it. That is the quick summary of this video. I thank you for watching, and as always, please go to proudmoney.com where we do credit card reviews, we talk personal finance, we talk deals, and all sorts of other fun stuff too. Thanks for watching. Bye.